Welcome to the Premier Podcast, your destination for all things window coverings. The show begins now.
Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Premier Blinds and Shades podcast. It's the show where we talk with window covering dealers who are doing some amazing things in our industry, and we dive into their stories, their challenges, strategies that you can help to grow your business. So, first of all, joining me today is our Director of Marketing with Premier, Braden Jones.
Hi there.
And then also with me is our Director of Customer Success, Greg Glover.
Greetings, Todd.
Yeah. Welcome. And as you can see, we have a fourth member with us today, and Andy Morstatter. And Greg, why don't you introduce Andy to everybody?
Yeah. Really excited to have Andrew Morstatter out of Kansas City. His business is called KC Blinds, and Andrew has a well-versed perspective of the window covering industry. Let's kind of dive into that a little bit, Andy. First off, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Really good, actually. Really good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So I spent 12 years being a general contractor. About 9 years ago, stumbled across the window treatment industry. I was looking for a change, something that was a little less impactful and crazy. I had 7 guys at the time, and anybody will tell you that having 7 guys in remodeling is it's like babysitting full-grown men. It's not a lot of fun. So so anyway, got into the window treatment industry. Got with a good franchise, and quickly rose to the top 3 in that system. And then I was out in Denver at the time, and sold the business to come back closer to family in Kansas City, and moved back here a couple of years ago. And then recently relaunched KC Blinds last summer. So been almost a year into the KC Blinds. I think I launched website around this time last year. So yeah, just getting up and going in another market. And it's actually interesting because this is my 3rd time launching, because I launched the franchise in Kansas City, then moved it out to Denver. Spent 4.5 years out there, and then now launched another business in Kansas City. So apparently starting businesses is fun.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. It is fun. It's kind of a challenge, and the challenge is good. So, well, walk us through, the shift, going back to the beginning, how you originally started, as you mentioned, as Rock Solid Remodeling before you got into the window covering industry. So what specifically sparked your move into the window covering industry?
Well, so my daughter got diagnosed with epilepsy, and at 20 months, and it got me thinking that I needed something, because we spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital. And I had my guys calling, because I had to, if you don't give your guys guidance in the remodeling industry, bad things happen. So because you can't just leave them to their own devices, or you'll come back and, the customer won't be happy and all that. It got me thinking I like working in the home industry, working with clients, all of that. But I needed something that was less, like if my daughter ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks, I can't just leave somebody's kitchen torn apart. But if I tell somebody, hey, I know we said we're going to install your shutters next week, I can't do it for another week or 2, it's not the end of the world. They're going to be understanding. So I made that shift, for the purpose of still having a business in the home improvement industry, but yet not having all the stress of having somebody's house torn apart. Because as the saying goes in the industry, there is no such thing as a window treatment emergency. You can't. You're not leaving somebody without a stove or without a toilet or anything like that. Like if they can throw up a sheet or do what people do if they have to. I'm not saying I'd want to leave somebody in that position, but it's not the end of the world if they did.
Right. There are those handful of customers, though, that would not agree with that statement.
Correct. Yes. I have run into many of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have too.
Yeah. No, there are many that think that it is, but I mean, by and large, the worst, like I had a installer one time where a shade dropped out, and customer called me on a Sunday and was telling me about how, it could have killed her cat and and broke her son's Apple computer. Thank God it didn't do either. And we went back out and we learned a lot from that. Like I now, when I install roller shades, I tug on the roller every time, because it might sound like it's snapped in, but I make sure every single roller shade I install, I'm up there, because I'd rather if it's gonna give way, I'd rather do it while it's in my hands than when it's way up there, because I'm sure everyone's had stuff like that where you thought it was up there. I mean, I've heard recently of some manufacturers where the roller shades just drop out of the cassettes on their own, like they're not assembled, or something happens in shipping. I don't know, that scary stuff. That's not something I would want to deal with. But this one was definitely our fault. It just didn't fully engage. But yeah, I definitely make sure that does not happen on my watch again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So at what point did you decided to make this shift, into the window covering industry? So at what point did you realize, you know what, I can make a career out of this? Like, this is something I can do for a while.
Probably a year or two into it. So that first 6 months to a year, I was kind of wondering what I'd done to myself, because I had a business loan that I used to purchase the franchise and get into it. So pretty much I put all my eggs in one basket. And if you've ever started, any business really, but especially the blind, like, and you're not getting sales and you're not doing stuff. And then I came from a contract. I mean, I've replaced 24-foot load bearing walls and like done a lot of crazy stuff. And so I thought window treatments was going to be easy. And then I got into it, and the first year really, I messed up a lot of product, because you don't know what you don't know. And my first shutter job was a disaster, because I didn't even know any of the terminology, all the T-posts and all of that. Those were all in the wrong locations and everything. Luckily, the customer was very gracious with me, and she was fantastic, and I got it good the second time. But yeah, the mistakes the first year cost a lot of money. I still contend that that's the only way to really lose money in the industry, is to order product wrong and not know what you're doing. But yeah, after I got my feet under me, I realized that it can be a very efficient and good business from the standpoint. And I still get to work with homeowners and provide them a service that is helpful for them. I honestly can say that I don't think there's any better industry than window treatments as far as home services go.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and Andy, I got a question for you. So, you're kind of talking about those first year or two and launching, a business 3 times. We've got a lot of dealers that are, relatively new to the industry, right? So is there a piece of advice you would have for them? Or, what are a couple of things that you would wish you would have done better? Or maybe what you've learned on this third launch that, you could share with other dealers that maybe they could not have to kind of go through a few of those things that you did. So what are some of those things that you've learned through that process?
It's funny, because I'm in the process of helping my cousin kind of get some stuff going on in Colorado as well. And he's like, what do you do? Like, the whole thing is I can't give you a step by step. I mean, I can tell you, get Google reviews, because if you don't have Google reviews, you're irrelevant. Doesn't matter what you do. You can spend $3,000 to $8,000 a month advertising it, you're going to burn it. Because the first thing they're going to do is look you up online, and if you have no reviews, they're not going to call you, and they're not going to take you seriously. So it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it, you have to be legitimate in the eyes of your potential customer. Because I know when I used to do home shows, especially early on, and people had never heard of me or never seen my business around, they'd be like, yeah, let me get back to you, and they would like walk around the aisle, and I could tell that they like checked me out online, and then they came back and had a real conversation with me, because they actually, like, were checking that I was legit and that I, was a business that they would potentially do business with. So if you don't have Google reviews, you don't exist. So get Google reviews. And then, I mean, just grind. Like, I know people who do stuff. I know people who do door hangers. I've got a box of 500 yard signs out in my garage, because I thought this time I'm not a yard sign guy. I tried to be a yard sign guy again, and I just have 500 yard signs sitting out in my car. I just don't like the image, like, because people, I hear all that, like, I see them ran over by lawnmowers. I see it, like, HOAs get mad because like, you might get business from it, but I don't feel like it's the classiest way to get business. And so I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy to walk up to people. I've heard of people that have success just going door to, like, find somebody who's moving into their house and go give them your card. And, like, so it just depends on your personality. But the whole point is just grind. Don't sit down there on the couch waiting for business to come to you. If you're outgoing, then go out and talk to people. If you don't mind doing yard signs, you'll get business from it. Just go put a yard sign anywhere you can that, go talk to realtors, go talk to, just, again, let anybody and everybody that'll listen know that you're in business and that you're going to take care of people, that you want to be there. And BNI was huge. I don't have time to be in it right now, but every single one of them, the first year or two I spent in BNI, find a good group, not just any BNI group, find a group that has 30 plus people in it and that is heavy on the home services and has a good realtor. Not just any realtor. You find somebody who actually has a realtor that does it full time, and that does a good amount of transactions in high-end homes. Don't find the person who sells 6 houses a year and is just in there, for socialization. But find a good group that has painters, decorators, AV guys, and most importantly, a good realtor, because that's, I mean, every BNI group I have been in has brought me 6 figures of income, or of sales every year, but it's time intensive. Like, in this industry, it's either time or money. Either you throw money at it or you throw time at it.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah, I like what you said, and I think that's a really key thing. That's something I learned early on because I with a mom and pop window covering company and grew it, from $1 million a year company to a $17 million a year company. And so I learned a lot about, and I didn't have enough leads to fill my calendar when I started. And so I had to do a lot of the things you were talking about. You had to scratch and claw. And what I learned in that, 2 things, and one of them you hit on, but you hit on both of them, is the activity. Just do something. Like, just, it was amazing how I would go out with a plan and I didn't really know if it was going to work, what was going to unfold that day. And I would get leads in unexpected ways. And I just learned that there was something magical about just being out there and hustling, and good things happen when you just get out there and hustle. And a lot of times it's unexpected. It's not necessarily the results you were looking for. You got results from just, they would see I had a wrapped vehicle and I would be sitting and someone would tap on my window and like, hey, I saw your car, stuff like that would happen. The other thing was, I'll tell you a really funny story so I talked to this window covering owner that when he first started, he was a yard sign guy and he would nail them on light poles at intersections and they would always get taken down. So he started taking a ladder and he would put them up so high that the only way you could take them down was to get on a ladder, and they stayed up there a lot longer. And he actually got a lot of leads off that. So I always thought that was kind of funny.
I was going to say, he probably got business. I'm just not that.
Yeah.
I don't,
not fair enough.
I want to be that guy because I know it brings you business, but I just can't bring myself to be that guy. But I think you hit on the other thing that I would say is just as important as Google Ads is vehicle wrap. Because if you don't have a vehicle wrap, I don't care that it costs $4,000. It'll be the best $4,000. Every vehicle wrap I've ever had is paid for itself in the first couple of months at the most. I mean, I had one.
Well,
go ahead.
And as you grow, especially if you have like a team with 2 or 3 people on your team and they are driving a wrapped vehicle,
Absolutely.
Now all of a sudden you start to create this impression in your market that, like, you guys are everywhere. I see your vehicle. I used to hear that all the time. We went from 2 people to 8 in the matter of like 3 years. And everybody drove a wrapped vehicle, even the installers. So you put 8 wrapped vehicles on the road in your community, in your area, in your town, city, like, people are seeing you everywhere. And then now you create this like perception that you're the go-to company. Like, you guys are the experts. Like, you're the ones I need to call. And you're right. It pays for itself quickly.
Well, and the point I make to people, like, if you don't have a wrap vehicle and you pull up in front of your customer's house, nobody knows what you do. They don't know if you're a painter. They don't know if you're a drywall guy. They have no clue what you do. But to your point, I mean, when I got started out in Colorado, I was doing home advisor and I was taking repairs because nobody else was taking them. And I went out to do a repair for a shutter job. I mean, I wasn't making $150 or whatever it was to do the repair. And the neighbor across the street came over because I had a wrap vehicle and said, "Hey, can you come take a look at my house for shutters?" And I sold a $12,000 shutter job to the neighbor across the street off of a $150 repair off of Home Advisor that nobody else wants, because I get it now. I wouldn't do the $150 repair now because I don't have time.
Right.
But then, I mean, I'm trying to get my feet wet. And that would be my other suggestion. If you're just getting started, do repairs, do things that nobody else wants to do that might not be particularly, it's lead gen. You know, you go in there to do a repair, you take care of them. Maybe they don't do anything now, but maybe 3 months from now, they're like, "Hey, you know, I got to looking at my blinds. I want to update them. You know, I want to, to do stuff." But to me, it's just getting your name out there. You get to meet the homeowner, you get to give them your business card, and that will lead to business, whether it's with them, their neighbors, it doesn't matter. Like, you're providing a service, you're taking care of somebody when they can't find anyone else, because everyone else, "Yeah, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. If it's not ours, we don't fix it. We don't touch it," and I'll still do repairs for people when they call in, depending on the repair. I'm not going to repair a $20 Walmart blind, but if they've got it, I've gone out for Hunter Douglas, like they're having issues with their power view, and it still leads to business. I went out, another company, one of the bigger guys in town, sold them and wouldn't service them, and went out and fixed her motorization, got her a new motor, and she bought $1,500 worth of blinds for her office from me. And I would assume that if she does business with somebody in the future, it'll be with me and not with the people who wouldn't take care of her.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something really good that I think I want to reiterate, especially to someone who's just starting out. And I think a lot of times a mistake people make is they're looking at, especially if you're new to the window covering industry and you don't know what you're doing, the temptation is going to be to look at your competition and try to copy them. And I think that's a big mistake, because you're not going to stand out. You're just going to be a commodity. And something you said, I think, would be great advice is study your competition and instead of studying what they are doing, study what they're not doing. And because that's an opportunity for you to come in and set yourself apart, not just to get business and learn. I think that's the other thing, is don't be afraid to do it, because you're going to learn so much. And so, take advantage of every opportunity. But the fact that if your competition's not doing it, that's a good opportunity for you to set yourself apart and find a piece of that market share. The other thing is, along that same line, that I learned is that I tried to make it a big priority to always, ABC, always be closing, right, in sales. But I used ABC as always be canvassing. And so I would always try, no matter how busy I got. And there were days I was running 6 appointments in a day. That's a busy day, right? That's an exhausting day. But I disciplined myself to find 5 minutes to talk to somebody, hand my business card to someone, hand a flyer out, do something. But every single day, because what happens is, and you know this, that you get busy, and what do you not have time to do anymore? You don't have time to go canvassing and hand out flyers and stuff because you're so busy. Well, then what ends up happening? Your leads dry up. And then when your leads dry up, now all of a sudden you got all kinds of time to canvas, but you don't have any appointments. And so you're hustling, trying to desperately get some appointments on your calendar. And so there's this constant flow where if you will discipline yourself to always be canvassing, because what I knew is my competitor, they're going to go through those ebbs and flows, and I don't want to go through those ebbs and flows. So while they get all busy with all their appointments and their installs, then I'm out there hitting those customers so that I can keep my calendar full and more steadily. So I think that's something I learned as well. So I think that's great advice, though, to find out what your competitors are not doing and do that yourself.
So Andy, and let's kind of transition a little bit here. Now that we've got, the ability to kind of drum up some ideas off of leads, let's say we have a lead now, right? Now, from your perspective of being on the KC Blind side of things with your business, now that you have a lead, what does it look like for that lead as they're going through their website? How do you guide them along A through Z, from booking the appointment to setting the appointment to confirming that appointment. Kind of walk me through that. How does that look? How does that sound for you?
Well, and yeah, once I get a request for appointment, I always just reach out, and if there's anything I learned from Home Advisor, it's to not. I mean, with Home Advisor, you had to reach out to them in the first minute, or you weren't going to get a hold of them because the people didn't know that they were going to get four people bombarding them, and so they're not going to answer the last three. They're only going to answer the first one that calls them because they don't realize that a whole bunch of people are going to be calling them. But so I usually try and follow up as quickly as possible with any lead that I get or appointment request or anything like that, and then I get them set up. I show up, on time, or I let them know that I'm running late if I'm more than about 5 minutes behind, and then I just go in and I ask them questions on what they're looking for. I'm not the type A designer come in and this is what you need, and like, you need to do this here and that there, and like I figure out what it is they're looking for, what they're trying to achieve, what they like about their space and their windows. Do you like open light? Do you like, because if you like lots of light, you're not going to want a shutter, because shutters are just going to darken your space and block your windows. So you have to figure out what people are trying to achieve first, and I think that's something a lot of people like. I'm not a one solution fits all kind of guy.
Well, so now, yeah, right. And now that you're in front of the customer, let me ask you this question, because this is something that when I had a sales team, we always talked about this. And this was something that I feel like a lot of people may not understand the exact concept of how to differentiate themselves in this field, right? Because when you run into a lot of businesses that are all doing the exact same things, it's like, well, why would I go with you other than maybe the price of the product? So how do you differentiate yourself to your customer so that they know to go with you?
Yeah. Well, and now it's a lot easier because I've been doing this for 8 years. So I go in with a little bit more, at least on my good days. I go in. I mean, we all have good days and bad days. Let's, like, sales is not for the faint of heart. Even the best salespeople and the most successful people you have bad weeks, you have bad streaks. I mean, just like sports, like you could be a great baseball team and you lose 10 in a row and you get kind of down on yourself. Like it's competition. You're going to lose some, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to just move on from that and not let that get you down. But on my good days, I can go in with swagger and with confidence, not overconfidence, not arrogance, but just knowing that I have a lot more knowledge in the industry. I have a lot more sales. I mean, I've done probably $10 million in sales at this point. So I've seen a lot. I've dealt with a lot of companies. I've dealt, like I have the experience to give people confidence that. But I mean, I guess I had that in remodeling too. I was 21 and I looked like I was 14. And, I mean, I had the guy that spent $130,000 with me and let me replace his load bearing wall, 20 something years old. So I've always, you got to have confidence, but, setting yourself apart is, I think, everybody's biggest challenge, because like in Denver, with my remodeling background, I did a lot of custom balances. I provided a lot of solutions that my competitors did not provide. I did 42 knotty alder, arch balances that I made in my wood shop. It took me 100 hours and it was terrible, but I do it again because it was good money. And I was able to. I mean, I charged $20,000 for those balances, so what wasn't cheap, but they were happy. I was happy. In the end, happy. It was grueling getting them done, but again, it's something my competitors were offering cassettes. A cassette on a naughty altar, it's just not going to look as nice in a $2 million home. And so I offered things, and I can still offer. I'm going to be building a cornice for my customer to take to her upholsterers to have them upholster. So I'm still able to offer things that other companies either can't or won't offer. You have to figure out, like, if you're a new franchisee and you came from an accounting background, it's going to be hard for you to differentiate, because you have to figure out what you can offer that other people can't, which to the, hey, we do repairs, hey, we whatever, like, because if you just compete on price, all it's going to do is drive the whole industry down, because it commoditizes all of us, and especially in the day and age where you can go on blinds.com and order your own blinds, and they're not the same quality, you get no service, good luck. I mean, I can't even get a hold of most of my manufacturers that are not cheap, like, good luck with customer service on that if something, when something goes sideways. But
Oh,
yeah.
I think that's a good point too, Andy. Is I think people that are searching for a dealer like you instead of going online, is they're actually wanting that customer service, right? And so it's even more important is to just deliver that from start to finish, because that's their expectations are higher, because that's the reason they are not doing it themselves. And I want to touch real quick, because you mentioned how quickly to contact that lead from to begin with. So that's on the marketing side for me. But here's some just real quick stats: is when you respond within 1 minute of a lead, you are 7 times more likely to convert them compared to after 2 minutes, right? So after waiting 5 minutes, you have your likelihood of contacting them drops by 80%. And then it says 78% of home buyers go with the first company that contacts them, right? So even though that they may go up against a couple of people once you're in the home, they might only call 2 or 3 people total, but that first impression is what matters, right? And there's some people that they may never even get another quote. So that's just, so many people don't know the importance of that timeliness of that. So
Yeah, it's huge.
yeah.
I've had too many leads where I've waited, like, just not gotten to reach out to them for an hour or two or whatever it is, and then you just never hear from them. Like, you never get a hold of them. So I got into the habit when I was in an appointment out in Colorado, and somebody would reach out, I would send the voicemail to my wife and be like, hey, you need to follow up with them, because I know I'm going to be in this appointment for the next hour, and I didn't want to lose the lead. So, I mean, I would be on top of it that much to where I would just text it to my wife and, like, we need to reach out to this person right now. Because obviously, if I'm driving in the car, I can answer the phone. But if I'm not, like, I know by the time I get out of that appointment, that lead's probably already going to have moved on. Not as much as like in the plumbing industry when they have a leaky faucet, they're just
Right.
until they get a hold of somebody because they need something now.
Right.
We're not that, but unless you're coming highly referred from somebody they trust, like those, you could take a day to get back to. You could take probably 2 or 3 days to get back to you, and it would still be there because you're coming as a personal recommendation. But when somebody's just calling you off of a Google lead, you're nobody to them. You're somebody who's providing them a service, and the next guy can do it just as well as you can in their minds. That might
That's
not
right.
be, but in their minds, like you're nothing. They're just calling around to get their needs taken care of. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to jump in and kind of just look ahead. And, you've been in this business for a year now, and kind of just talk us through, like, maybe a 2-part question. What are your vision for your company for the next few years? Like, how do you look to grow? Like, what are your kind of techniques for growing? And then just like as an industry as a whole, how do you see the industry going, and how are you going to kind of combat that over the next couple of years?
So as far as growing, I still have, I mean, I grew probably 30% year over year in Denver. And that was part of the issue, was trying to figure out how to get over that. When I got out, my last year was 2.4 million in sales. And I didn't know at that point if I wanted, because once you get past that point, it was me and 2 installers, and then my wife doing a lot of the back end work. So it was something I was comfortable with, but I'm still not. And maybe I'm traumatized by having 7 guys in remodeling and the nightmares that came with that, and workers' comp claims and other stuff. But I have not figured out if I want to jump back into that, where I have 6, 8, 10 people, like a whole team. And it's not saying I can't grow like that. I have lots of ideas to get there. Then I have to rely on that team of people to perform, and then in my experience, your customer's experience goes down, because and you have to be really diligent about hiring the right people if you want your customer experience to stay at the level that people expect. So, but as far as the industry goes, obviously, I see online becoming more and more of a challenge. More and more players in that arena going after the old adage of you hear all the time, those aren't your customers. I believe that to a certain extent. Some of them I think are my customers. Some of them could be my customers. But yes, the person who's looking to do it themselves and save a bunch of money is not your customer. You want your people that want the full experience, want it taken care of from start to finish, want somebody there to service their products when something goes wrong. Those are our customers. But I do see a lot of the big players, struggling at this point to, keep their market share. And I think they're going to struggle more and more as the year, because their customer experience has gone out the window a long time ago.
Yeah.
There is no customer experience. They've treated dealers like we don't exist or don't matter for so long that I feel like that's going to come to bite them back. And this time around, I have actually made a very concerted effort to not use any of the bigger players, and I still make that concerted effort. Just because I want to set my. I mean, the thing is, everybody, to our point about having something that sets you apart in your market. If you're selling the same brand that somebody else is selling in the same shade and the same fabric, then it all comes down to price. It's all commoditized. And the only thing to compete on, aside from unless you're really good at convincing somebody that your service is going to be that much better, the only thing to compete on is price. Because he'll sell me this red Schwinn bike for, like if it's the same model, the same this, it's like Ford dealerships. You can't, aside from price, what if it's an F-150 with XYZ options, then what else can you compete on? If they're both, so then you go to the lifetime warranties and all of that kind of stuff. That's the only way, aside from price, that you can compete, is to offer a better package, a better warranty, a better whatever you have to offer that way. But
that's only worth so much.
Yeah,
and so
that's
that caps, so you could be a little bit more if you can tell your story a little better. Maybe you can charge a little more for the same product, but it's marginal. It's not going to be a tremendous amount more. But if you can set yourself apart, and you're 100% spot on that.
So finding quality products that are not in the big, the realm of big companies. And it's been a challenge, and it continues. There's still a few holes I'm trying to, to fill out, as far as like big roller shades that have decent fabric, so I can do 144-inch window and not, like there's only a handful of companies that can fit that bill. But I'm still trying to figure that piece out, but I'll get it figured out. But I think in my opinion, the best way is to find the smaller manufacturers that have better customer service still. Because do
you know of any of those companies?
I do. Premier has been fantastic. So I lead with you guys when I go in. But again, there's stuff you don't, and I've talked to Greg about this. Like, you guys max out at 110, and I understand why. And that's not a problem. Everybody has to stay in their lane. So for the most part, for roller shades and zebra shades, and I've used I don't sell a ton of Roman shades, but I've used them. It's like they came in little gift boxes. It was a weird experience. It was almost like Christmas morning,
Yeah.
Unwrapping my Roman shades. They came really well packaged. I've just never seen them in plastic cartons and, like, wrapped in ribbon, and they were very well done. I was impressed by, like, I like your guys' cordless. You don't have to tug down. So I guess as a kudos to you guys, not that I'm anybody to you, but I am very stringent in, like, I analyze things a lot. I check things out. I don't just pick up a product and, like, hey, let's go with this one. Like, I know what I'm looking for. I know, like, my motorization over the last year. Motorization used to be a huge product quality used to be a huge, like, looking back on it, I think that might be one of the things that burnt me out in the industry the first time, is just the amount of problems that I had to go fix, and remakes, and motorization, having to swap out. And I'm not going to name names, but I did a job with 30 blinds, with one of the bigger companies. I've already switched out 5 of them. With you guys in the last almost year, I think I've had issues with 2 motors in an entire year, and I've sold, I mean, you guys know my sales, but I know I've sold at least hundreds, if not thousands, of your motorized blinds already. But
Well, and that's why. Well, and that's why I kind of wanted to interject when you said that you're not anything to us. I did want to stop you and say that you are, Andy. Like you from an instance of your experience and your ability to troubleshoot things in the field. Anytime that you ever have, an issue, I always, my antennas go up a little bit because you're very self-serving in that way, but you're also in tune to what's happening around you, right? So you've had a lot of really good ideas that have helped us implement. And I think that that's the difference between our relationship at Premier with our dealers versus like what other vendor dealer relationships are, is that this is a collaboration. I think that a lot of times, and especially here lately, the vendor dealer relationship has been very transactional, and it has not been, that collaborative effort to make the product, the service, and our ability to coexist and really thrive with one another and give the customer the best experience too, right? Is like, this is their home, that's their sanctuary. We want to make sure that we're leaving a lasting impression.
Absolutely. Well, and every time I've reached out to you guys, you've been super attentive and on the ball and taking care of stuff. Like I'm waiting on. I ordered some end caps from another manufacturer, and I ordered them almost 3 weeks ago. And I called yesterday, like, hey, I don't have these end caps. I'm doing this install. And they're like, oh yeah, our apologies. They'll ship out tomorrow. I probably won't have them for another week or 2, maybe. And to that point, I mean, every order you guys have that I put in with you guys, I have had in less than a month, except one. I had one out of stock that I think took 5 or 6 weeks, but otherwise every other thing has been like clockwork, which is fantastic. I want to be able to rely on my manufacturer just like you guys want to be able to rely on us, because you guys make or break my customer's experience. Because if I tell them 4 to 5 weeks and it takes me 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 or whatever, and then after waiting 6 or 7 weeks, then everything comes in, I have to replace half of them. It ruins the whole. I mean, I went through a year or more out in Colorado where I couldn't even ask for reviews. And part of that was COVID, and part of that was, it just, it was just a bad experience because.
Well, and we've been there, and I think that's the difference. I think there's a lot of differentiators. I think, but the reason why we're set up the way we are, the reason why we're doing this is we've been in your shoes. We were in that retail space. I built a retail business, from the basement to, we were in 4 states and, scaled that and dealt with all the vendor frustrations and issues and, just constant decisions that it was very obvious that they have no clue what the dealer goes through. None.
I don't think they care.
No, they don't.
Honestly.
And so that's why, that's why we exist. And my prayer and hope is that it's evident in every aspect of how we operate that we get it. That's what I hope comes across, is that we have the dealer's best interest in mind. And like Greg said, that we want to bring back the way business used to be done. It used to be that the vendor did partner with the dealer. It really was a partnership, and it was a 2-way street, and that's gone by the wayside. And now your vendors are competing with you because they're buying up and they're opening showrooms and buying up, retailers, and they're competing for market space with you.
Advertising for their retail business as well.
Yeah. So, we want to just, for dealers like yourself that get it and want a true partnership, that's what we're looking for. And so we value your business, and we're very thankful to partner with you for sure. So, well, Andrew, I appreciate you being on the podcast with us and sharing your story. I always love hearing everyone's stories, and I love the insights that you shared today, and I appreciate you sharing those. I know any dealer that tunes in to this podcast and listens to this podcast, I think they're going to have a few really valuable takeaways that they can take and put into action right away. So I appreciate you being on the podcast and for sharing your story with us.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. And if you're a window covering dealer yourself and you're interested in partnering with Premier, you can go on our website. It's premierblindsshades.com, and let's have a conversation. Let's open that up. If you loved this content, also please like and subscribe. We have a YouTube page that this will be edited and dropped to. We're trying to do one of these a month and staying on that diligently. So yeah, let's have a conversation and let's keep it going.
Hey, and until next time, remember, with Premier, our motto is when you win, we win. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. If you would like more information on how Premier can help grow your business, book a discovery call today by going to premierblindsshades.com. We look forward to talking with you.